we can call it the Josh McDaniels Revenge Bowl in
Mm-hmm.
Raiders going to New England. And this is another. Hey, I think Week 1 is packed with just interesting games this week because this is another game kind of similar to the last one where the Raiders are a brand new team essentially. You've got Pete Carroll brought in, Geno Smith, new quarterback, new coach, new face of the franchise in the highly drafted running back and Ashton Jeanty. You do still have the tight end in Brock Bowers, probably the best tight end in football at this point, and they're going up against the Patriots, who a lot of people are picking to be a playoff team. I mean, I feel like conventional wisdom has the Patriots taking that second spot in the AFC East, building on the success of last year, along with just a rejuvenation in terms of bringing on Mike Vrabel. And say what you will about Josh McDaniels as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, he was he's always been solid. There's a reason that he got hired so many times to be a head coach, just because he was able to call, great games on the offensive side of the football. He's not going to have to lead the room. Mike Vrabel will be able to handle that, and I do have a lot of confidence in what McDaniels and Drake May are going to be able to do this year. The Raiders, they're just an interesting team in the sense that you've got, as I said, two very good tight ends. You've brought in a coach, and I think it's a kind of underrated move this year in Pete Carroll, who has been, the defense is the concern for the Raiders, but you've brought in a defensive mastermind in a sense, a guy that's been able to lead some of the best defenses in the league in his early years in Seattle, and his most recent years, for that matter, too, in Pete Carroll. So, I mean, I think, there's a lot to like about the Raiders this year and the Patriots. These are two exciting. This is just another exciting matchup. So, but I think that I'm going to go with the Patriots just because they're at home. I think there's going to be some growing pains in just having a new quarterback in Geno Smith, new offensive scheme. There's going to be some gelling that has to happen. And I think that Mike Vrabel is going to have the Patriots ready. They've built up their defense this year along the defensive line with Milton Williams and Harold Landry. So I like some of the moves that they've been able to make to shore up what was a weakness of last season. And, all the hype is with the Patriots this year. And I think that, Week 1 at home facing a team coming across the country, this is a game that could be close, but I think the Patriots are going to take it.
Pat, as someone who prior to this podcast doing my own capping already put my first nuclear missile whale play on the Patriots. I love that pick. First off, we got a team going West Coast to East Coast on the first week of the season. You're moving time zones. It's going to be tough. You got 2.5 Patriots. And Patriots had a rough season last year. They added Harold Landry. They added Stephon Diggs. They added Morgan Moses on the offensive line and added Carlton Davis as well for them on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's a better team on paper. They're going to be at home in this game. Now, whether they're overrated or not going into this 2.5 point spread, I wouldn't read too much into it because I think they're a better team on paper than the Raiders are. Geno Smith can be very good at times. He can also be very turnover prone. Now, I think, honestly, New England should have been a bigger favorite than 2.5 points. That's why it's already been bet up, to 3. I mean, I love the over right now at 42.5. Here's what I'll say. I think if it was old school Chip Kelly calling the plays for the Raiders, who, Pete Carroll brought in, I would say put the bank on it. But, we've kind of seen, especially at Ohio State last year, a lot slower pace of play calling. I think that was one of the bigger frustrations, if Ryan Day were to have had a frustration with it last year. I think that was kind of one of the, one of the things that they tinkered with. With that offense that we definitely saw as it played out against Texas. But has he evolved as a play caller? It remains to be seen. I think what they would like to see, and is Geno Smith going to be the quarterback for that? Can they play the up-tempo style? That remains to be seen. Now, what happened with the Raiders last year is they did only have one offensive lineman make it through the whole thing. Now, make it through the whole season. Now they have a fully healthy offensive linemen, but they did lose 9 of 11 starters on defense. And this is besides Crosby and what was it, Tyree Wilson, Malcolm Kuntz. So basically, I mean, it's just kind of to say that I think they're going to have a bad pass rush. They did add Jeremy Chin, they had Eric Stokes, they added Jermaine Pratt, and Landon Roberts, Devin White. So they had experience on the defense, which I think plays to kind of what Pete Carroll does when he's building a team. He's an experienced head coach with a lot of veterans. I think that's all something that does play into the Raiders' favor as you go, as you look at it in a broad spectrum. For the Raiders, though, I mean, for the Patriots, though, this was a Mike Vrabel built team from the get-go. We said it when we were talking about the draft. They took Will Campbell with their first-round pick. They brought in Garrett Bradbury. They added Morgan Moses. I think the offensive line goes from what was one of the biggest question marks last year when we were talking about it, decimated with 4 starters out for the majority of the year, to a full slate of O-linemen. Got it right here. Reading this off: Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Garrett, good Lord, Bradbury, Mike Onemwu, and Morgan Moses. I'm saying solid depth of the offensive line. They added Stephon Diggs. They brought in Travion Henderson through the drafts. I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, you're pretty pumped going into this season. And we've kind of grown accustomed to the Patriots defense being solid. They do have a new defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams, taking over the defense. I'm not sure where I think he probably will have full defensive play calling. I'm sure Vrabel will have a good amount of input in this, but I think Drake May was a success last year. If you look at it from a macro into what he really became down the stretch, and I mean, he was successful, and the offensive line was a mess, and he didn't have the weapons. He did not have the weapons. So I mean, I think this is really a team first week ready to show their teeth. That is why it is my nuclear missile whale play of the week.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I really like all that explanation. I agree. I think the biggest, I don't know what the word for it would be, but I think surprise coming into this season for New England is the offensive line. I think 4 new starters is a really big deal. Jared Wilson, we all had him plugged in as a center. Really excited that he's going to start at left guard for them, and excited to see how that goes. And then they found some guys. I mean, Matt Collins is a great player. I think he's a great blocker at the receiver position. So I think they're going to really be able to enforce their will in the running attack. And you're right. The Raiders kind of seem to be in that early stage of a Pete Carroll rebuild, where they bring in these seasoned vets. Who obviously know X's and O's, but I think they're going to kind of get just outplayed by the talent on this other team. Pretty excited. I think the offensive line for New England is going to be really exciting this year. So I'm gonna go with New England. I think they're going to control the time of possession. I am excited about the Raiders O-line as well. Just think it needs some more time to develop. And then they do have some questions coming in. I don't know where Jacoby Myers is. I think he's negotiating a contract. I don't know how involved he was in the camp off-season and all that. And then
but he's a McDaniels guy too. I mean, that was his reason for being brought to Las Vegas, right? So I mean, it remains to be seen how it shakes out with him. But I thought he was as good as gone. Right. Once I heard the trade rumors, but yeah, aside from the point.
And you could say the same thing about Kyle Duggar for the Patriots as well. I think he wasn't expected to be on the roster today too, but looks like he's going to play. I think Gonzalez might be out for week 1, Christian Gonzalez. But nonetheless, I still think the Raiders have some questions. Christian Wilkins just vanishing. It seems like he's going to be a huge hole at the end of the day.
Speak
He
what?
didn't play a lot
You
last
care to
year,
get into
though.
the Christian
play a
Wilkins
lot,
stuff
but-
at all, Christian? With the
He did a little more than vanish.
but you mentioned big. You mentioned
He
big
got
hole.
essentially booted out.
Yeah, but we'll see. I guess I don't know. I don't know who can
I
score.
don't know.
in this game.
I have questions about the Raiders receiving core, and I know that I'm on a pod with two TCU fans, so there's going to be a lot of faith in Jack Besh. But at this point, and
He's a
Brock
rookie.
Bowers is
He's a
essentially
rookie.
a tight
Brock
end.
Bowers is
I
gonna-
know, but
Brock
that's what
Bowers
I'm
is
saying
gonna
that
be
I've
the
got.
number
I'm not
one.
saying he's going to be a terrible receiver, but I'm just saying that I have a lot of questions about
And yeah,
Raiders receivers in this game.
and my final point is Geno. I think a lot of people are going to get eyes on Geno. They didn't see him too much in Seattle. I think he's going to piss a lot of people off with how he operates. I think it's like his primary target isn't going to be Brock Bowers. Some games it's going to be like Dante Thornton is going to get the most targets.
Trey
I think,
Tucker.
he's going to be very aggravating this year, and you're going to see, kind of what his deficiencies are on a decently built roster, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't expunged my take on this game yet, but I largely agree with everything you guys said. I mean, the Raiders are an average football team, in my opinion, at best, just based off personnel. Not disrespecting the coach that Pete Carroll is. I think they've got some pieces. I love Ashton Genty, big Ashton Genty guy. You mentioned it too, Christian. That offensive line. I think people think that it's a huge issue on their team. I think that they're an average offensive line. Like Colton Miller showed some flashes last year. Dylan Parham looks to be a good left guard. I like Jackson Powers Johnson coming out of college. So I mean, there's some pieces to work with there in offense, but again, it's going to take some time. And listen, I don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation there. I mean, Geno, in my opinion, looks like a stopgap. I don't know if he'll be the quarterback there next year. Christian Gonzalez is big. He didn't practice again today. While you guys are talking about it, and today's Wednesday, and I know there's some stat out there. I don't know the exact percentages, but I'm pretty sure if you don't practice on a Wednesday in the week of an NFL game, it's usually not likely that you play. At least in some sort of limited fashion. So, yeah, I that's going to be the problem with the Raiders, though, is can they exploit Christian Gonzalez being gone is the real thing, and I don't know if they've got the horses for that. I can only lean New England here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders put up a little bit of a fight. I mean, look, again, like we mentioned, they got some talent. I think that the question for them is really defensively. You lose Trevon Morig, you lose a bunch of guys. Really only bringing back Max Crosby. It looks like Tyree Wilson is probably a bust at this point. I'm not really sure if you can get anything out of him. That's probably a win for the Raiders. But again, this is a what's the word I'm looking for? I was gonna say a conglomerate, but that's not it. This is the upper management is not the team that drafted Tyree Wilson. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the Raiders are going to be anywhere between a 5 to a 8-win team this year. Maybe if they get lucky, like the Commanders did last year, they might be able to win 9 or 10 if everything plays out schedule wise. But
they might have a
tough to
bad.
get
They
10
might have
wins
a
in that
bad.
division.
They might have a badass pass rush, and I mean, I think that's the best you can probably say about their defense.
yeah, I mean, but I like the coaches they have there. I like Pete Carroll. I think Graham's a good coach. Like they might be again. We mentioned earlier on the pod, there's some DCs that can get more out of their team than the talent that's there, and maybe this is one of those scenarios. But I like what the Pats have done. This isn't the team that's going to exploit a maybe even hampered Christian Gonzalez. He's one of the better corners in the league when he's healthy, but if he's not out there, I don't know if the Raiders can take advantage. I am intrigued to watch Ashton Genty though. I hope he has a good game. I really liked him coming out of college. I think he can step in and have a Bijan Robinson type impact. Does that happen in his first week in the NFL against Mike Vrabel? Probably not.
Mike Vrabel also 8-5 as a head coach for Week 1, dating back to his time for the Titans.
Yeah,
So
new
he'll have
team
his
though.
team ready to play.
Yeah, it's a new team, so I mean, I don't know how much I weigh that, but a Mike Vrabel team is usually always ready to play. There, that's the thing going to be the big difference between this Patriots team versus last year. Is it just seemed like Gerard Mayo couldn't instill like we see this off the Belichick tree all the time. Is like the Matt Patricia's like sometimes these guys off the Belichick tree try to be disciplined. They try to be Belichick and it just doesn't work. And Mike Vrabel never coached under Belichick. Let's keep that in mind. So I wouldn't know if I even consider him a Belichick disciple because he's never coached under Belichick. He's his own guy, but from his years at Tennessee, look, being in their division, those teams just were well coached teams. And I think that they outperformed the talent that was typically on those teams. I mean, they get to 2 AFC Championship games with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Obviously, they had Biggins Henry, but
Roll Tide. I was
know,
going to say.
yeah, but look, Vrabel gets the most out of his teams, and I think that's kind of the overarching point here.
I think Vrabel benefited a lot from Derrick Henry, obviously, and then that helps with the record and with his previous tenure in Tennessee. But what Vrabel does do for you is he puts in a hard floor for your team, right? I mean, I don't think this is a team that's going to be able to fall to the depths that we saw last season and the previous years. I think you're going to see, at the very least, a team that's going to be contending for a wild card spot, just based on having the coach, the defensive talent they've inputted now. And, the beauty of that is once you have a hard floor, then you can really see how high Drake May can take you, and what he can do without having to worry about, will it go wrong on defense? Does he not have the correct weapons that he needs? Well, now he's got it. Now it's definitely a prove it year for Drake May. I think that there's it could go one way or the other for him, but I have a lot of confidence in Drake May, and in this game they might not light it up. I think this could be a game that is won in the trenches for the most part, just based on how both teams are going to try to win. But yeah, I like the potential that Drake May has throughout the season, especially being linked up with McDaniels.
And last point on it, Pat. I think we've seen Josh McDaniels have success in very similar situations to what he's going into now as a play caller, with a solidified offensive line, a quarterback who, granted, we still don't know exactly what Drake May is as a passer, but I mean, they've set him up for a very good situation to have success, and I think this is really some place where he and Josh McDaniels could thrive as, a play calling and, pass throwing duo. And, it remains to be seen. I think anyone who is down on the Patriots this year and thinks they're going to be just bottom dwellers haven't been reading it.